Hi guys, this is Gary Fong, and I wanted to do a video on how to self-publish your book. Now this book here, The Accidental Millionaire, was published by a mainstream publisher, was in bookstores, a conventional way of publishing. And this book, How to Be a Rockstar Photographer, was self-published. And I want to kind of teach you how to do the self-publishing thing and talk about traditional publishing. So let me tell you how Accidental Millionaire came out. I read this book by jo- uh, Jeanette Wells, and it was called The Glass Castle. It was such a nice book. It talked about, her crazy stories about poverty and things like that, and it inspired me to basically make memoirs about, what happened in my childhood, because there were some really crazy stories, and a lot of crazy stories along the way, about poverty, but also about kind of the things that happened in business and the crazy people, along the way. And so I thought, just going to remember this. So I did an audio recording on my iPod and gave it to a transcription person who then typed the whole thing out. And, kind of looked at it, and it was very, very scattered. In fact, the first iteration of the book was called Snaps, and because it was just snapshots, and they really had no meaning. So what happened is I sent the book to Jody Blanco, and she was New York Times best-selling author of the book Please Stop Laughing at Me, about bullying, and I really liked the book, and so I wrote her. And this is another kind of a little tip. Don't be afraid to reach out to people who might be celebrated or well-known, or you might think are too busy, because I found that a lot of these successful people just really love to they don't have a lot to do, I think. I mean, unless they're built a certain way. But I sent it to her, and she said, this is actually quite good. So she forwarded it on to her friend, who was Kent Carroll of Carroll and Graf Publishing, and he really liked it. He said, he really liked the author's voice and things like that. So from that point on, I got a book deal. Now, and then in the traditional book deal, what happens is you sell your manuscript to the publisher, and they'll either they'll give you an advance, they'll give you a royalty schedule and things like that. But once it goes to the publisher, it's theirs, and they can do whatever they want with it. So they came up with the cover, which I like. The title I didn't really like. I wanted it to be Accidental Entrepreneur, because it showed all the different businesses I had gone into, completely stumbling into them without any plan. And but before I get to the publishing part, what happened was I took the manuscript and I found a book editor on, I think it was called Guru.com, and I found a guy, Andy Wolfenden. He was editor for Chicken Soup for the Soul, and he was phenomenal. So what's neat about Guru.com is you can find experts, you can find out what they charge, and then you can hire them. And I hired Andy, and what he did was he went through the book with fresh eyes and with a professional editor skills and experience. And he said, hey Gary, all of these random businesses and random funny stories, they're not that scattered. The cohesive point here is that the randomness basically leads to the success, which is the non-goal setting, the being open to all possibilities, and that part of the book where I said I was completely goal setter, and had this one moment where I almost ran into a car. The car that I almost ran into had a bumper sticker that said, "Since I gave up hope, I feel much better." And from that point on, I just kind of dropped all of my goals and just said, I don't care anymore, because I was too stressed out about trying to reach my goals. And the funny thing about that is in not caring, my eyes were more open to one opportunity after another, which turned into businesses. So that became kind of the cohesive thing. And I have to thank my book editor for making the book, looking at it with fresh eyes, taking the stories that maybe don't fit, and turning them into something more potent, so that it's a page turner. Now, another lesson that I learned about book writing is that when you write a book, it's like a super long blog post. That's just what it is. It's like a really long blog post. And a lot of times in these blog posts, there's really no construction. So a book goes through a process which I call assembly. And assembly is something that I actually learned from Sidney Sheldon. And Sidney Sheldon is one of the most celebrated authors of all time. He's in the Guinness Book as probably one of the the most best-selling authors of all time, producer of Heart to Heart television series, I Dream of Jeannie, and things like that. I photographed his daughter's wedding, and during that time, he invited me into his office. His spectacular office had a knight in shining armor for whatever reason, but he had the workings of his next book, and it really was just kind of like a flowchart diagram. In the diagram, there'd be different names, so there'd be like Bob and Mary, and then it would say there would be a line, and then it would say affair, and then he'd cross it out and say he'd put gay over Bob, and then there'd be another line into Bob murdered Bill. Bill was involved with, so there were all these arrows that kind of went everywhere. But the thing about it is that all these different pieces were in the overview, so that when he wrote the book, he could, and you'll see this in cool books. They'll go from this, then they'll go from that, and then they'll bring the whole thing around together at the very end. And I thought that was awesome. The other thing that he does to basically fill the pages with visuals is if it's set in a certain town, like maybe New Orleans, he'll get himself a apartment. He'll stay there for a month. He'll go to the local diner. He'll go to the barber shop. He'll listen to the inflections of the slang, and he'll oh, there's sycamore trees growing here, and he'll jot that all down, and it will become in the book. But the thing about the book is the basic structure, which I call assembly. Now, assembly either happens or it doesn't happen, and that's where a lot of books, you kind of get it and you go, where am I going with this? Just kind of think of it as table of contents. Which part can you just completely scratch out? And a lot of times authors think, I got to make the book a couple hundred pages. I'd rather a book be 70 pages and be like freaking awesome, potent, rather than you trying to fill it with a bunch of junk that just bores the reader, right? So that's basically what happened with that. Got a book deal, and so the next thing I knew, it was in all the bookstores. Now there's, believe it or not, 1,000 books published in the United States every day. So that's like 365,000 books that are published per year in the United States. Of course, most of them self-publish. Only a few hundred of them make them into bookstores. And being in bookstores is really exciting because I saw my book next to Carrie Fisher's, and then I saw it in another place. It was in the biographies. I was between Jane Fonda and Michael J. Fox. So there'd be Carrie Fisher, Jane Fonda, Gary Fong, Michael J. Fox. And it was thrilling and weird. I remember when I went to the first bookstore, I literally hid behind my wife because I couldn't, for some reason, bear to see my book on the bookshelves. And of course, I went around to all the bookshelves in different cities wherever I traveled just to see my book on the shelf. So for that part, it's really awesome. The thing about getting a book publisher is it's very, very hard. I was lucky that I just wound up going from one person to a publisher, to an editor, to a publisher, to another publisher, and got the book without an agent. Most publishers won't look at any book without a representation from an agent because they know the agent's not going to bring them crap, right? So the other thing about it is once you sign that deal, this becomes their book, and they can do whatever they want with it. It took 2 years from the time my manuscript was done before it hit the bookshelves. And that part, I was just like, oh, the book's done. I love it. Let's get it out there. And then you have to wait 2 years. The other thing is the royalties are quite small. This is a $20 book. And by the time I get a royalty, it's under $3. So, and that's because on a $20 book, $10 is the sales price to the reseller. Then the distributor takes a cut off of that, and so that's basically the book publishing business. And it was a great instructor for me because I knew everything I loved about it. And Glenn, the publisher at Ben Bella Books, great guy, terrific author support, publicity, everything. Wonderful. And he said, if you got another book, I'd be glad to, take a good serious look at it. So that was neat. When I wrote the second book, How to Be a Rock Star Photographer, it was timely. There was a lot of discussions about unqualified amateurs becoming, wedding photographers completely out of the blue, with all dreams of rock star success being a wedding photographer. I mean, flying around in private jets or going around on tour in motor coaches, things like that. And so I couldn't wait 2 years for this thing to come out, because by that time everything would have gone on. So I decided to self-publish, and let me tell you how easy it is. You write your manuscript, and then go get a book editor. Book editor will proof it, will clean it up, look at it with fresh eyes, make it potent, and make it so that it grips the reader. And that's a good book editor. Bad book editor will make it just as bad as yours was, but correct spelling errors. Okay, so then you put it in a Microsoft Word document, but before you put it in a Microsoft Word document, download from Amazon their template. Now, just Google Amazon self-publishing. They've got an entire website that will teach you how to do it. You download the template, and then you spill your manuscript onto the template, and it will do basically the setting for you. It'll give you the title, the header, where the pages go, things like how wide the space is, the gutter. This is called the gutter in a book, and it has to be different on pages right to left and things like that. So it'll do that. And then all you do is in your Microsoft Word document, if you've got illustrations or photographs, just drop them in as JPEGs in the middle of your photos, in the middle of your copy, and it will wind up there. Then, now that it's in the Amazon, because you'll want to know the size of the book, trade paperback like this is, it'll be typeset exactly like that. And then I think there's a table of contents function in Microsoft Word. I'd have to remember how that went. But then they'll also guide you into things about the cover page, and then how to get Library of Congress ISBN number. This is the ISBN number. This is all explained on the Amazon website, to teach you how to get the barcode that would match your book, so that when it goes to the bookstore and gets scanned, it's unique and it has the correct format. Then for the cover, I could have hired a custom designer who would have listened to my concepts and given me a bunch of proposals. What I did was I went to 99designs.com, and that's an auction thing, basically, where a person says, look, I've got $300 to spend on a cover, and this is what I want the cover to do. I want it to this and that and that and that, be colorful, be whatever. And then all these different people from around the world will put in their little pitches. You can't use them because they own the rights to them until you buy it. When you buy it, then they'll give you the PSD file, the image ready file, whatever they are, all the different files, the large PDF, and then that PDF, you tell them it's going to be for Amazon. You literally drop that to Amazon. So you give them Amazon two PDFs, one for the cover and the back. It's all a spread, and then the manuscript. Now, and from that point on, I'm not kidding. It's literally a push of the button. You push the button, and boom. It's going to be within 48 hours. It's on the Amazon bookstore. They have to go through a review process. I don't know how they do it, just to make sure that you don't have, how to make your own nuclear bomb or something like that. I don't know what they do. But once they approve it, it's on the Amazon bookstore that fast. And so you can order it. And I suggest that you order a prototype, because I went through 3 prototypes before I got the binding correct and everything like that. Like this one was a prototype that I didn't like because it was off center on the book spine. So went back to the designer and had him change that. But you can get your prototype right away, and that's fun. You get a FedEx envelope, and inside it is your book in 3D, and it costs about $5 to make. It's awesome. So what happens is on the Amazon bookstore, and once that PDF is on the Amazon bookstore, there's a little bit of formatting and software to put it on a Kindle, and there's also a little bit of formatting software to put it on iBooks, and that's something you can Google. Very, very well-known resources on how to drop these things up to Kindle. But you make your Amazon print copy, you make it on Kindle, and you put it up, and from that point on, Amazon will just send you royalties. Now, the book will cost you, this one, I don't know what it was, $5 or something like that. and then the price is $19.99. So then the royalties are much better than under $3 for a published book. But that's not the reason that I self-published. I wanted to self-publish it because of speed. I'm not kidding. From the moment I hit the publish button, and that was after it was manuscripted and edited and things like that, it was available for purchase. And so what Amazon will do is they have high-speed printing machines that will print on demand. If you order one, it'll say, we'll ship it to you in 2 days or something like that. And there will be a machine that goes and prints it out, puts on a hot cover and glues it and all that, and then they send it to the customer. If it sells a lot, which I was fortunate this one did, as soon as it got out there, it shot up to #1 on the professional photography bestseller list on Amazon. And so what they did was they started to stock it. And so when you ordered it, they could ship it right away because they knew that they wanted to stock it. So that's basically how that went. The person who made the cover was from the Philippines, paid $300, and this is just one way of doing it, but I said I want it to be colorful, I want it to be a photographer and female, because that's the newest wave is predominantly a lot more female than it is male, and a lot of worshiping, adoring fans. Cool title, things like that, and then he sent me that. Put it all together, put it up on Amazon.com, and it was published. I'm not kidding, it's very, very simple to do. So here's the difference between the two: self-publishing and traditional publishing. Traditional publishing, very, very hard to get in the bookstores. Hundreds of thousands of books published per year, only a few hundred make them into the bookstores, and very hard to get a publisher. Impossible if you don't have an agent, unless you get into some really, really interesting situations, because most publishers will only take on maybe a dozen books per year. That's it. And so they're not going to take unrepresented manuscripts, because it has to come from an agent, because they know the agent's reputation is on the line, and they're not going to give you something crappy to waste your time on trying to review. And then the other thing about traditional publishing is it'll take you a year or two complete years for this to hit the bookstores. So that's basically it. Self-publishing, a lot easier than you think. You just have to get into it and follow the resources. There's resources all along the way. It'll guide you, and then you will have your own book right in your hands. Really fun. Okay, so thanks for listening. Hope you guys write a bestseller.